And welcome to Gaining Vision with Melanie, Taddeo-Nxumalo. I'm joined by my dear friends Becky and Tilly, and here we are at Sanctuary Mandela. But I wanted to really get to know these guys. These guys have been great friends since 2020, and I'm meeting them in person for the very first time. So we already heard about how I met Tilly, but Becky and Tilly, please tell us a little bit about yourselves and anything you would like to share about your favorite places in South Africa that people should check out.
Okay. How did we meet? We met over 30 years ago, but we've been married 26 out of the 30, and we were students at the University of Natal, and so we got to know each other, and then we eventually went out together, but he was a senior student at the time, and I was a junior, so he was the naughty one.
You're Robin. We're the younger women. I see how it is, Becky.
Yeah, I was doing my final year. I nearly missed her. I think I knew her for about 3 years or something, and the very last year that I was about to leave university, I decided, no, she's the one. And, so that's how we started dating. Then I left to go and work, and she finished her studies.
Okay, and so happily ever after.
Yes.
And you're living in a beautiful area of South Africa, but there's so many wonderful things here in South Africa.
Yes.
So for people back in Canada or across the globe that are considering coming to visit South Africa, what would be your top places to check out other than Sanctuary Mandela, of course?
Yes, well, this is the first one.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
There are a lot. We're from two different provinces. So right now we're in Gauteng, which is where she's from. She was born and raised here. I was born and raised about 600 kilometers away from here. And there are quite a lot of things to do in my home province. I'm just going to promote my own province.
Yes, go for it.
So, like right now we're at the Sanctuary, the Mandela House. There's the Mandela Capture Site in Howick, which is in KZN. We also have, I think it's the tallest waterfall in the world, if not the second tallest, which is also in Howick, not far from the Mandela Capture Site. We also have the sea, the ocean, beautiful beaches, long coastline, very warm climate. There's no winter along the coast there in Durban. The Indian Ocean is very nice and warm. And then we also have a lot of safari. You can go to game reserves all over the place in KwaZulu-Natal. And then also you can do quite a few tours. There's the Guardian Route, which is world famous. There's also the Midlands Meander, which is not far from the Mandela Capture Site. And then you have the Panoramic View, which is in another province called Mpumalanga Province. So those are quite a few things that one can do or visit if you are in South Africa. And our climate is great because we don't get snow and it doesn't get extremely cold. Especially in KZN, you can walk around in a t-shirt without anything in the middle of winter.
Yeah. But also we have another province called the Western Cape, and you are going there in a couple of days' time.
Yes, we are.
There is the Table Mountain there to visit.
Yes.
And the coast, it's a beautiful coastline. And
Robben's Island, of course.
yeah, and there's Robben Island. And the climate there and the culture of Cape Town is closer to the UK. So when you're there, you would think that you're in the UK. It's a beautiful, very relaxed place. And which other province? Well, Gauteng, where we are now, well, there's Sanctuary Mandela, but there's also other.
There's also Northwest with Sun City.
Yeah, we went to Sun
and
City.
you went to Sun City.
Yes, we did. That was an
it's a
experience
beautiful
for
place.
sure.
Yeah. And here in Gauteng, there's a lot of places where we show culture, our culture,
And
what we
museum as well.
and what we did. There's a lot of museum, to visit.
And there's so much to explore. So this is it. We've been here. Well, we will have been here for 3 weeks, and it's not enough time. You need to make it at least 3 months, guys. It is so much history and so many amazing things. But Becky, I wanted to come back to you because you and I were having an amazing conversation at lunch about Nelson Mandela. Now we all know, well, at least we don't all know, but most of us know. Look at him as a peacemaker, somebody that brought peace and democracy to South Africa, along with many other people in the works, of course. But we were chatting about how there was challenges. Can you just speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, there were lots of challenges that Mandela faced. At the time, there was talk of black on black violence. The political parties were just not getting along. And then there was a lot of political violence happening at the time. And there was a very, very serious incident that took place, that one of the ANC leaders by the name of Chris Hani was murdered in Boksburg, not far from where we live. And that nearly caused an explosion or implosion within the country, because a lot of people were now angry that white people are killing their leaders, and therefore now it's time to just, go all out and kill people. And so Mandela had to find a way to actually stop that from happening. So there was a lot of compromise, and unfortunately now, with hindsight, there's a lot of criticism that yes, he helped bring freedom to us, but there were certain things that he should have actually put his foot down and said, I want this and I want that. But we can only be grateful that he was there and he did what he did. Unfortunately, some things he just couldn't negotiate on. So that's what happened. The economy, for example, I mean, there's a lot of complaints that is still held by the minority, which is mainly white people in South Africa, and that 85% of people do not own land, do not own businesses, and so on and so forth. So those were the dynamics of that negotiated settlement that he agreed upon.
And this has been so educational for me to hear what people in South Africa felt and heard and were experiencing, because again, it's one thing to read somebody's account of it in a book, to listen to a movie or a video. It's not reality, but you guys were living here during apartheid, right? So what was that experience like? Please just share.
Only when people ask us do we start to reflect. It was very normal for us. We were young, but we knew that there were limitations in terms of what we could do. For example, when we were young, we could not have come here in Houghton, where we are now, because it was a white-only place, and black people who would come here to work, and they have to leave the suburb by a certain time, so when they knock off, and then they go to the township, then the following morning they would come, unless they live in, and when they live in, they would have a letter that certifies that they live in, and so when the police would do their raids, and they do find a black person, at least it's written somewhere. So, but it was a normal for us. We knew, I mean, our uncles used to be arrested if they were found somewhere in Houghton after hours. But what was beautiful then was that the community was a close-knit community, as wide as it was. I mean, in any province, in Gauteng, for example, if my uncle were to be arrested here, all he would have said to someone who's black who goes past, here's my house number, because we're not for black people. Please tell my family that I was arrested in Houghton. Then they would have to find me at any nearest police station. And that message would get to his home.
Wow.
That's community love.
Yes.
Something that is not here today. And we were talking about that, we were reflecting. That can you imagine how it was? And it was beautiful. Because every child was a child of any elder person. So the harm was there, but it was very limited. Unlike when today you really have to look after your child and be with your child and keep them safe. You could walk and play, because any parent would be your parent, and they would tell you, you are now doing wrong, come back on line. And your parent would not fight them, but they actually beat you up. You say, why did you do that?
Yes.
For that person just, So that's how we grew up.
I'll just share two real examples that I experienced. During lunch, I mentioned that I'm an actor and entertainer. So the one time I was still young, I think I was like maybe 14, 15 years old, and we had to perform for white tourists at a hotel in Durban, right at the beachfront. So we were told that we cannot use the main entrance to get into the building. So we were taken through the staff entrance at the back. And then we went there and then we performed. And tourists loved us and everything. And then they said, okay, we've prepared dinner for you, but you can't sit here. So they took us to like an empty meeting room somewhere, and that's where we had our dinner, and then we were also told to use that entrance to exit. So that was my lived experience of there are white only areas and there are black only areas. But for me, it was hard hitting because I have just entertained these people, but I can't interact with them, and then I have to be moved as if I'm not a human. The other one is when I was a student and doing my first year, I had to stay almost 25 kilometers away from the university, the residences, because the university itself was in a white area. So black people had to live 25, 30 kilometers away. And so we had to catch the bus in the morning and catch the bus like midnight as well to go back and sleep away from the university. But fortunately, it also changed while I was still a student, so we ended up living right there in that area.
Yeah, and if I may add, and this is a beautiful part, the university is talking about is called University of Natal, and that's where most of the politicians studied. Nelson Mandela also studied there, and the residents that he's talking about, even Dr. Uban Wakazulu, Nkosazana Zulu, used to stay in that residence because it was designated for black people, far away from where the main campus was, and they had to travel by bus. So that time for them, when they were young people, it was there, Nelson Mandela's and there. But us, we found it, so do you realize that it means that we studied before we could vote? So that is why the infrastructure and the culture was still there, and we had, we were part of it. It was only, we were actually in 89, 88, 89, but we were still staying there. So do you see? So the universities and those institutions took a while to integrate black people into the main campuses.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is some real lived experience. Thank you so much for sharing that. My last question before we end this beautiful day together is, please share what Ubuntu is.
Ubuntu. Yeah. Okay.
It's in short is I am because you are type of thing. So in other words, a man or a person is not an island. You might think you have everything, but we actually need each other. And but it goes beyond that. It also gets to where if I have something and you don't, I should share that thing with you. So that's basically about being a person and not an island, number one. And number two, understanding that we need each other, we need to take care of each other as well. So that's...
And you know, I can definitely say that is the feeling I get in South Africa. Everybody is so loving and open and welcoming, and everybody just so gets along. It's just a beautiful feeling. And I remember Tilly doing your speech on that, and that stayed with me from Toastmasters. So this has been so great spending the day, getting to know Becky a bit better, as well as, Tilly meeting in person.
Yeah.
Guys, definitely if you're here, come check out Sanctuary in Mandela. And of course, I'm not going to share my good friends with you. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit selfish, but you can make friends across the globe, and I encourage you all. The four of us, my husband included, have had a beautiful day together, and this is what true friendship is. There's no borders to friendship. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.